Hey, what is up everybody, and it's Ivan here, and we're continuing to build our Android app together. And right now it's actually the future, it's actually the Ivan from the future. As for my time, we have already built our Android app and deployed it on Android, launched the camera view and even added steps to process frames, and we're gonna do so much in this episode. We'll actually have our app working, all the camera view, and we'll actually have this cool effect where every other frame gets flipped and it gets mirrored and it gets converted to grayscale, and and it creates that really interesting effect which for lack of a better word I would describe as intriguing. But we're seriously gonna do so much in this episode. We'll have working an Android app that can process frames with the OpenCV functions by the end of it, and I hope that you guys are excited. Please, if you have not yet, consider subscribing, cause exciting stuff is coming. We have not yet even started to put neural nets in there, cause when we'll start doing that, that'll be even cooler. So please consider subscribing so you will not miss the future parts. And also smash that like button to let me know that you guys are just as excited as I am, and to show me that it actually brings value to you and that we're actually doing cool stuff with our app development series. So I hope that you guys are excited, and we're gonna do so much in this series and in this episode. So why wait? Let's jump right into it and let's get started, and the code will be on GitHub also. So alright guys, since we're actually gonna be getting our hands dirty, we gotta first enable the developer options on our Android devices, so that when we then go to run and debug or run app, when we plug our phone by the USB cable to our computer, we can actually build the app on the device, so that we can go and actually test the whole application with the camera, because that's what we're kind of aiming here. So the way to do that, and I'm gonna do a maneuver here to show you. You go to settings. Alright, so I can't quite get the perfect quality, but you get the point, I hope. We're gonna go to settings, general, then about phone, and what we're looking for here is build number. So in my case it's in common, and in software info and build number. So when I find this build number, you gotta tap on that multiple times, and here it says no need, you're already developer. Yeah, you can tap on it several times. It's gonna prompt you that, hey, are you sure? And when you say that you are sure, basically enable the developer options. And it may not be in the same location as it in my case, but it should be somewhere nearby. What you're looking for here is build number. So that part is pretty straightforward, so I hope that works well. Alright, so once we got the developer options is out of the way, and it's all working, we can actually focus on building the app. And as I mentioned kind of before, when we're working with Android Studio, there are a lot of files here, but really what we need is main activity, where we kind of write all the code, and activity main.xml, where we kind of specify all the buttons, all the designs that we kind of want our app to have. We put the Java camera view, where we'll launch the camera, and yeah, so it's pretty much those two places that we're gonna be working in. So yep, let's get started with it. Alright, so let's start off by editing the design of the app. So basically we right now have this empty activity here, and the hello world text to you, which is this guy, so we can go and delete it, it'll disappear from here. And what we need here right now is org, OpenCV, Android, Java camera view. The reason why it's not Java camera 2 view is because I tried it and it's not stable. In fact, it doesn't work for now, I guess, on some Android devices, but Java camera view, from my experience, work on all of those. So that's what we're gonna be using here. So layout width, which is kind of how wide do we want this camera view to be. We'll say match parent, and so we'll say in layout height match. parent. And we'll say here Android visibility with the visibility will be equal to visible. Alright, so if we look right now here, we'll see like there we have like our camera view, full screen, like just the way we wanted it to be. Okay, so now we can move on to main activity. Okay, so here we gotta, we have like this public class main activity, which is kind of like inside of which we'll be writing like all the code and extends app compat activity. I guess like that's kind of what gets written like every time. It's kind of like default, and we'll add here like implements, and we'll implement camera bridge view base, CV camera view listener too. And so the reason why it's kind of like getting angry here with like errors is we gotta add here a few things, and like let me just type them out and then I can explain what's going on. So we'll say on camera frame, like it should prompt, and you should like be able to get all those pretty easily on camera frame and camera view started and camera view stopped. Alright, so what's going on here? So when it comes to like an Android app, my understanding here is it's kind of like a program that runs and that listens to like specific triggers, almost like at the most basic level where kind of I guess we'll be working here. And the triggers can be the fact that the app gets created, like it gets launched, and the trigger can be a frame received by the camera. A trigger can be the fact that the camera was like stopped, like when you turn your screen off, or like in this case when you turn it on, and here when you like turn it off. Or like that can be a button that it waits for the press of a button, and when you press the button something happens, so it kind of waits for like those triggers to appear. And in this case, like those are the camera view started, this camera view stopped, and like spoiler alert, like this is the most important one here. So let's move on. So okay, before we actually dive into launching the camera views and like all that good stuff, we gotta first define a few variables, and which will be camera bridge view bases, camera bridge view base, and base loader callback as base loader callback, which we'll use to kind of put a few lines of code in onCreate that will actually like launch the whole Java camera view thing like inside of OpenCV, and allow us to receive the frames from the camera, which is what we want to hear. So now before we move any further, I just wanted to say like that's we're gonna be using like this construction a lot, which is kind of pretty different from like what it's what happens like in Python, but it's kind of like how we define various variables here, like we're gonna be using here like with the matrix objects of like OpenCV's images like a lot. We're gonna like use this construction, and also like with neural nets, so kind of get used to it, like it's kind of the way we define variables here. But before we proceed, let's actually come back to activity main.xml, and we gotta add here the line that basically assigns to our Java camera view, like this guy here, and I use that then we can reference it in onCreate. So now I went ahead and I paste these lines of code here because I didn't want to like waste anybody's time, and it's gonna be easier this way. So what happens here? So we set up the camera bridge view base that uses Java camera view, and by the way, I have turned on the auto import feature here, and if you do not have it like turned on, you may want to like import all the things here manually, just org, OpenCV, Android, Java camera view, and that pretty much should do the trick. So yeah, so we here like step the camera bridge view base. Here we reference that ID that we have assigned the camera view, and we set its visibility to visible, and we set its camera view listener. And alright, so in these few lines of code, they kind of check that everything like loaded properly. Like if it's successful, then we proceed and we like enable the view. So yep, and there is actually on camera frame, on camera view started, and on camera view stop, but there are actually quite more of those commands like on resume, and like it all should like prompt you, and it all should be like pretty cool. Then on pause, and alright, and so the other guy that we gotta add here is on destroy, and I open up here like my little version of the app because you know, all this time is really like one-time work, and again most of our time will be concentrated on camera frame, where we'll like be pressing frames, and this is kind of the organizational stuff that we just gotta get out of the way. And then if we like want to do something with those triggers, like with those options, we can do something with that. If we don't, we may not do something with that also. So let's hold the blueprint here. So on resume, so what happens here? Basically, if here, like, let me just copy this line of code. By the way, guys, all of it is on GitHub, and if you're not in the mood to copy and paste and look after all of those brackets, like no problem, just go on GitHub and you can just follow along, and I'll do my best to explain what's going on here. So here's basically checks if OpenCV loader and initialize debug. Like if this guy returns true, then like everything is good, and if it's not, even if it's not true, then something's bad, and we'll like print like there's a problem. Then we'll say like base loader callback, like and if it's like everything's good, will be just like base loader callback is success, like, get the whole app going. Like that's kind of my understanding of the mechanics of it. So yep, so we did on resume and on pause. On pause, we'll paste these few lines of code, and these few lines of code, what they do is, if camera bridge view is not equal to null, which like if camera bridge view is like working, and null is basically like in Python we have like none, and here it's like null. So if it's not null, then it's kind of like working, and if it's like working, then hey, like why not go ahead and disable the view if it's like on pause. And by the way, guys, what are like all those triggers? So on camera view started, when you turn off or like turn on the screen, that sort of thing, like when you turn it on, it's on camera view started, and it's also like on resume, and when it's on camera view stop, it's when you turn off the screen, and it's also like on pause, like, or these guys work 100% there, and this probably like do the same task. So, and it's done. If you want to have something happen, like say you want to, when the user turns off their screen, you want to like save an image or do like whatever, you can put something here. Like if it's like on camera view stopped, just save an image there, or whatever. And on pause pretty much does the same thing as far as I'm concerned. Like as far as I'm concerned, they're kind of like the same. At least I haven't like noticed any difference. So on pause, on resume, we have that out of the way. And then we also do the same trick with on destroy. So on destroy is basically when the app is killed, when it's like terminated, and when it's like no longer working. By the way, folks, like this is like my least favorite part, and please like bear with me through all of this, cause it's gonna be good. Cause like once we get to on camera frame and we'll actually begin to do magic with the frame, so that the camera receives and will start loading the neural nets. Like that's when the actual fun begins. Like this is the part where you just want to like do it once. You want to make sure that like it works and you can actually start doing what you want to be doing. So like please bear with me here. Like just please bear with me through this. So we have like on destroy, on pause, on resume, just checking here, and those guys are, you can just leave them. So yeah, so like that'll basically make sure that when we turn it off our screen, our app doesn't basically die. I can actually quickly show you like what I mean. When I like launch the app, it's like working. I can turn off the screen, I can put it like back on, and it'll like still be working, like no crashes and stuff. So that's what we're aiming here, and that's what like all this rigor here is all about. But now I guess there are like just like few more details, and we can actually jump to do some frame magic. So let's jump to that. Let's do that. Alright, so once we like did all that, there's one other detail before we actually get to like doing some stuff with on-camera frame, which is that we're gonna be building our app in the landscape mode, like just as I've shown, like which is like in this like horizontal, I guess, orientation. Like if you want to use some other orientation, I guess you just need to like rotate the frame inside of OpenCV. I'll probably cover that somewhere along the way, but for now, just for the purpose of simplicity and moving like rapidly, and kind of because I have the most experience with it, we're gonna go with the landscape mode. So to do that, we gotta go and declare here that basically, for instance, like in my app here, I declare that screen orientation right here, like inside of this chunk, I guess, is landscape. So we'll just go and basically replicate all of that in our guy here, just like that. Okay guys, so I did a little bit of time traveling here and there, and I'm super pumped to tell you that like we actually got it. We actually done everything right, without the bugs, and it's working. It's like we're like one step away, and we're actually on the fun part right now, on the on-camera frame part, where we're gonna actually get and process the frames. So by the way, like all of that, it's gonna be again on GitHub, and it's kind of like a one-time thing. You just gotta set it up, and then you can actually, develop apps. Yep. So on-camera frame, like the function where we'll spend most of our time. So remember how I was saying like that everything here is like all about kind of like the triggers, when the camera view starts, like it gets triggered and camera view started, and you can like put some some commands here that will happen when the camera view gets started. Like here on when the app launches. When the app launches, we've put the commands that launch the whole camera thing, and OpenCV, or when the camera stops or when it gets destroyed, we can also like put we can also tell it to do something. So, and like the same logic applies to like a button. Say we have like a button, we press the button, it gets like triggered and something happens. So like like this is all about like those things that get triggered and then something happens. What's interesting about on-camera frame is that on-camera frame gets triggered on average 20 to 30 times per second, which is exactly the average like frame rate, like 24 FPS per second, like that's our thing. So it goes like this, like actually like much faster, like receiving like all the frames that it does. So it like receives all the frames, goes like super quick. So which time the phone basically receives the frame, on camera frame gets triggered, the phone camera receives the frame, and it then transmits that frame because we've defined here that we're want to transmit it to the object, the resource, with the idea of camera view, and that idea is basically what this guy has here. So it basically transmits all of that stuff on this Java camera view screen. So it goes like this, like it gets triggered like all the time, and that the frames on the Java camera view get updated, and thus we get like that smooth picture, like that smooth motion that the camera is actually working. But here's what's really cool here. So as on camera frame gets triggered, we can actually kind of intercept the frame like when it gets captured and before it gets, you know, shown on the Java camera view. So we can intercept it in between, and we can do like all sorts of things with it. And we're gonna do some for demo here, but we can intercept it in between, and we can process it with like neural nets, and we can write, you know, rectangles or text there, or we can, you know, crop it and put it like on some other image, or we can like change the color scheme from RGB to BGR to, you know, grayscale. So we can do whatever we want with it, you know. We can like whatever, like we can intercept the frame once, you know, with once the camera captures it and before it gets shown, and process it. So that's why the on-camera frame function is like so important, because you know, that's when we actually like intercept the frames from the camera and do something about them. So why not we first of all, you know, figure out how to get the frames. So before we do that, like now another cool part, you know, first like the on-camera frame cool part, now the cool part of how the images actually get stored in OpenCV and Android Studio. So the main difference from Python, like from this again from Python, is that in Python we like had NumPy, which is what we use there to like work with matrices, like, you know, do all sorts of operations there, and there is no NumPy on Java and on Android Studio, unfortunately. Like that would be nice. Like I've just been to like a few really nasty bugs where if I had NumPy I would solve them just like this, but it's actually pretty good once you get used to it. So to store frames, to store images in OpenCV, in Java, and like in C++, and everywhere I guess except Python, we use mat objects, that stands for matrix, mat matrix. And this is basically like an n-dimensional thing, like it's got all the correct characteristics that it should have. Like it can be like, you know, 2, like, and what I'm showing here is this, like can be like X by Y by Z, which makes it like 3-dimensional. You can store like RGB values there. So like that's what we use to store image, like a matrix object. So when we want to receive a new frame, here's what we gotta put here. We say like we want it to be in the mat like format, and we'll call it like frame, and we'll say mat frame that we receive will equal input frame.rgba, which is our red, green, blue, and alpha channel, something like that. So we receive the frame, and then we gotta return the frame here. So right now, if we just leave this code, and do nothing, what will happen is right now our app will basically be a camera. It'll be receiving the frames from on-camera frame, like it'll get triggered 20-30 times per second. My phone, I guess, like 24 FPS or something, and it'll return the frame, and that'll be like basically a camera. But let's add some processing in between, and what I thought of, let's add some mirroring. So what if every other frame that we process will change its color scale, and we'll also like flip it, we'll like mirror it. So how can we do that? And that's where we'll also, you know, be working a little bit with the built-in OpenCV functions that are like awesome. This is like one of the best things in OpenCV. Like it's got so many useful stuff built in. But you know, let's start from the beginning. So we wanna process every other frame and do something interesting with it, like change the color scheme and flip it. So first of all, we'll go up here and we'll define an integer object, like that will be a counter. We'll say that L equal to 0 here, and we'll say here if oh my god, okay, if counter divided by 2, if like it's remainder, like basically checking whether it's like even or odd, you know, and if it's even, then we'll say if it's like equal to 0, we'll do something with it. And let's before we define what we'll do with it, let's say that counter will equal counter plus 1, obviously. So here's what I like to do. I have the auto import, you know, option here, so that it automatically imports a lot of things for me, but I also like to do this, which is, as you can see, like here we've got a lot of like awesome stuff. And when it comes to processing images, we're gonna be working the most with like img proc and with core. So I put like usually star here, and we'll, you know, be able to access those like sub functions. So like bear with me here, bear with me, like it's better to watch what's happening here, you know, by actually seeing what's happening here. So first of all, like wanna flip the image, and again, it's like my arbitrary way of, you know, just adding some logic to that. So we'll say core dot flip, and the matrix source will be frame, matrix destination will be frame, and the code for flip will be 1, which is just flip, you know, left and right, as if you were looking in the mirror at the image. Okay, yes, and let's also change its color scheme. So we'll say img proc CVT color, and here's how we do that. Again, mat src will be frame will also be the destination. Here we gotta add the code, so it'll be img proc, and here we gotta add the code, say RGBA to, let's say RGBA to grayscale. So, you know, like we learned you know, how to flip images and how to, you know, convert them to grayscale, like already so much cool stuff. Like you see, like once we've, you know, got over with like the boring part, actually, you know, the fun stuff like begins. So what's happening here is the function on camera frame like gets triggered, we get the frame, we check if the counter of how many frames we've like iterated through is even, and if it's even, we flip it, we like mirror it, and we change it to grayscale, and then we you know, update the counter, and then we return the frame that will be shown on our Java camera view. How cool is that? So remember how in the beginning, like we've added the developer options to our Android smartphones, and right now I have mine, you know, connected by the USB cable. And once you have enabled the developer options and you have it connected by the USB cable, you will be able to you know, observe it here. You'll be able to see it here, and what you want to do is I usually debug. Like my smartphone is here, like, yeah, I'll just say debug, and it'll automatically like start and build the app on like your phone. So like no need, like, oh, by the way, one other thing, and this is like the item from the future, because I forgot to mention something. Permissions. Okay, basically Android all Android versions above above like the 6th one, which I have like above Marshmallow, require at runtime permissions. What does that mean? That means that when you launch the application, it will if you use the Android app, it asks you like, give me the permission to like use the camera, to use like the internal memory or like whatever. And we have declared the permission in Android manifest, but we have not implemented any code so far that would ask the permissions during the runtime. So what you guys wanna do here, because when you launch the app, it will crash because it's gonna access the camera. What you wanna do here is to go to your settings. Go to like your settings. I struggle so much with showing my phone screen. So you go to so you go to apps, and here in apps you find our app, which is basically, in my case, it's named Android series, like whatever you named yours. You gotta find that guy, you know, play the detective, play like the person who keeps, you know, just digging and scrolling and finding that app if you have like a bunch of apps. And here, like once you got there, here's the permissions, and I have already granted my app the permission to camera, but when you first enter here, like that will be unchecked, so you gotta check and give it the permission to camera, and that will basically stay constant, and that'll work, and that'll like do the trick. So yeah, go ahead, find that app, give it the permission to use the camera, and let me just continue to do like our thing here. All right, like once your phone is displayed there, and once all the code here is like correct and like it's all working, just gonna build the app, and then you'll be able to use it. You'll basically like install it, and you'll be able, like, I'll show you what's gonna happen. Like, let's just give it some. Oh, it's actually like pretty quick, so I might not even have to, you know, pause the video. But while we're, you know, not pausing the video, by the way, that might actually be my opportunity to show you what I mean by how it receives the frames. By the way, yeah, why not plug some useful info? When, like, there will be bugs in app development here, and there will be like a lot of them probably. So what I wish I learned earlier is that when you run the app in the debug mode, you can like go here in the debug kind of part of the console, and here if your app crashes, you'll be able to see why it crashed. You can also do it in like lowcat, but it's kind of more messy, you know. And when I launch it with here, you know, if it crashes, there'll be like a big red like writing saying that something failed. So let me just launch my app on my phone. Okay, so you see like what I mean here? Okay, computer, please do not, you know, do not die, please. I hope, you know, I hope it's okay. All right. Yep. Here's what I mean. Like the frames, like get received, like you can see like frame received, like the function gets triggered. Now let me actually, you know, unplug the debugging process. Will stop, and now look at that. How weird is that? I'm gonna, you know, also pop up the window so I make sure that I also see what's going on. Okay, so every other time we like see a frame, it gets flipped and it converts to grayscale. So this is like off the top of my head, like some weird application. Now, like imagine what we can like do with like what we can do here, like everything probably, and not even, you know, beginning to talk about my USB cable just fell off the table. Not even like beginning to talk about neural nets. We can develop these weird applications that have no meaning, just to look weird, but it's kind of neat. I kind of like its vibe. I mean, my face gets to look all weird when, you know, you actually look at that through the lens of the app we've built. So yeah, like pretty cool visual effect. Whew. So that's been a big one. That's probably been the longest part of the series so far, and yeah, like, and it's just the beginning. It's just the beginning. We've got over the boring part, and now we're actually beginning to develop our apps. So if you've gotten this far, please subscribe so that you know, do not miss the next parts. If you're like enjoying the series and you would like to support what I'm doing here, and you're like getting value of this, and you like wanna do that, ways to do that in the description. Thank you so much if you do. And of course, the other way to support me is to smash that like button, and do leave your comments, and I'll reply to every comment. And please let me know in the comments, you know, even if you like don't have a question, even if like everything worked perfectly, which I hope it did, just let me know what kind of app you want to build, like what kind of idea did strike you to, you know, follow the series. Like, that would be fun. And of course, like, the code for all of that is on GitHub. So yeah, I really hope that you guys enjoyed it, get value out of it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.